Hey guys, Rochelle here with Amethyst Ascension. If you are new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for joining me again. So today I've got my notes down here. Today I'm going to be doing the third week of the Channeling the Dark Feminine, and this is hosted by Cortney over at Erie's Witchcraft. And so I have some journaling prompts here, and I also have a spread that I'm going to be doing. So the first question is, how do you express and internalize anger, betrayal, and sadness? I think it all comes out for me in anger. It's really hard for me to express myself when I'm crying, just because it's like I can't talk. It's like my throat chakra closes up when I cry, so I cannot express myself. And I mean, when I cry, it's like when I really, really cry, right? When I'm feeling that emotion so strongly, it's hard for me. Just because crying does and always has felt like a weakness to me. I don't feel that. I mean, I really don't feel that, but I feel like I can't communicate properly when I'm crying. So I just shut down, right? I try to express myself, but it's really difficult. So a lot of times my sadness or my frustration or anything, my pain comes out in anger, because that's the only way I can get it out, kind of. You know what I mean? Because if I allow myself to cry, there's no communication there, at least for a while. And then I get the worst migraines because it just pours out, right? I also express it through like creating things. You know, I love to just be handy, use my hands, crafty, use my hands. It helps me to just get out it used to be when I would bead, you know, when I would do bead embroidery. But now it's just like working with graphics or making a tool or making anything like that. So the second one is, does the world or people make you feel guilt or shame? Absolutely. I think that's probably why I have such a problem with the crying bit. You know, I'm sure you've heard the expression, you want to cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about, right? Not that I really heard it a whole lot. My mom really didn't do that, although my mom was this really strong woman, and I barely ever seen her cry. When she would cry, she would go to her room and cry because she didn't want us to see it. And I think that's a huge mistake when we do that. I do. I think the most important thing that we can do is to show our children that we're real, right? But anyways, that's a different topic. Does the world or people make you feel guilt or shame? Oh my gosh. Do you know how many comments I've gotten my entire life from being fat? I mean, spiritual shaming, body shaming, health shaming, you name it. People making assumptions that they know why I am the way I am. You know, no. Or taking me, that I'm less valuable because I'm big. But if I'm being honest, I think that subconsciously I wanted to be big because I've always been big from the time I was little. I think I always wanted to be big as a way of protecting myself in this lifetime from certain aspects of femininity, right? Or human imposed femininity. Identifies sacred rage, and you know, the mom shaming bit, you know, shaming for being angry, expressing yourself, your opinions, right? Stuff like that. identify sacred rage and righteous wrath. So for me, when we did the live, which I thought was just absolutely beautiful, okay, I don't think that's not the direction that Cortney had envisioned. And it just, that's organically where it went. And women just wanted to speak about the things that had happened to them. But I didn't see that as sacred rage. I seen that as telling their stories. And for me, I was so emotional about it. You didn't see it because I don't show those things as much, but it did affect me. And I have my own stories in regards to that I didn't even share because I felt like those women needed that. And I've actually healed mine. And I've talked about that. I'll probably talk about that in the other video for the sexuality bit. And that's going to be unlisted for just some people. It's not going to be for YouTube. But so when I feel it for those stories that I hear of women who have repressed the things that have happened to them because of, we don't talk about those things. I mean, and when you not only see how those things affected those women and them telling their stories, but their stories of overcoming, their stories of, because a lot of these stories happened when they were younger, right? And they have continued to flourish in their lives. So they didn't hold on to it, but they used that in order to propel them, right? So I feel like women telling their stories and having support for one another and a true sisterhood is a beautiful thing. But we should be encouraged, not shamed, for talking about the things that we've gone through. Maybe not necessarily on a public channel, right? I mean, it takes a brave soul to talk about those things on a public channel, okay? And I would say a very more healed soul that's able to have enough space to be able to hear other people's stories, okay? I think wisdom comes from experience, but I think greater wisdom comes from hearing the experiences of other people and being able to hold space for that. That's greater wisdom. So there's a whole lot more I could get into, and I'm just not going to because I don't want to make this super long. It is super important, but not for YouTube necessarily. You know what I mean? I do want to make another comment about this because I have had a couple comments or a comment about it being really difficult because these are monthly long works, right? Absolutely. These are month-long exercises, okay? And we have to be mature enough if you want to partake, because none of these are mandatory. None of these are pushed upon us. If you feel like you are emotionally mature enough or emotionally secure enough, I should say, to partake, then I hope that you realize that this is just, if it is something that is beneficial and you see the work is good for you, then you continue on, okay? But these monthly exercises are not meant to be cure-alls. They're not meant to be, when you go to therapy, are you cured within a month? When you go to support groups, do you just tell your story one time? If you have an addiction and you're going to a support group for that, is it, you go to a month-long worth of stuff and you're done? No, it's a doorway. It's a portal. Please understand that. If you are not emotionally ready for that, then maybe don't participate. But that comes to personal boundaries, but knowing thyself, knowing what you can do and what you can't do, and being honest with yourself whether or not it's something that you can do. And as far as Cortney goes, Cortney's been doing this work all year. I've been doing this work all year. There's many other channels like Lennon who's been doing this work, Lennon Smith. So this isn't just a one and done monthly kind of thing. It's a doorway and it's a portal, and I hope you use it that way. But identifying sacred rage and righteous wrath, that comes from women's voices being, for me, being squished. Men's voices being squished, anybody's voices being squished. That's where that comes from, for me. What have you apologized for that you shouldn't have? You know, I say, I'm sorry all the time. I do. It's just like part of my vocabulary. It's not that I'm apologizing that I've done something wrong, but I am still sorry for what that person is going through. So perhaps I need to try to work on changing my vocabulary because, you know, that does sound like an apology for something that I've done. Now, excuse me, what have you apologized for that you shouldn't have? I don't know. Just using my voice, speaking my mind, speaking my truths. But I usually don't apologize for that. So I don't know. Nothing comes to mind right at this moment. I'm sure once I stop this video, a whole bunch of things are going to flood forward, but that's the way it goes, right? All right. What boundaries do you need to set? I'm pretty self-aware. I pretty much let people know what my boundaries are. I do tend to give in certain relationships, and because that is my nature, okay? And I expect the same kind of reciprocity, which is not always healthy, because I think that's part of my own people pleaser. I don't think I do it all the time, but I have definite boundaries when it comes to, especially like social media. If I don't see you coming over here and supporting me every once in a while, I'm not going to you either. Simply because, in my mind, because of my people-pleasing years and tendencies, I don't think that you're a bad person. I'm sure that you're a wonderful person. But if you don't have the time for me, I can't make the time for you, because mentally, I'll start asking my questions to myself, like, am I not good enough? Why do I give and this person doesn't reciprocate? So it's my own shadows. But that's how I know it is a boundary that I've learned over the years that I put too high of expectations on other people because I have extremely high expectations of myself, but that's not fair. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to you or anyone else. But those are my boundaries. So, because of the mental health implications that go along with that. So, how have you been suppressed socially and personally by a man or society? So for me, I've had these conversations even with like my daughter, and she's 26, and she thinks that women and men have equal rights. And I think things are starting to change a little bit with, you know, I don't even have to mention it, and I'm not going to mention it, but you know what I'm talking about. However, when a woman has a child and an employer knows that she has a child, things are different. It is usually, not always, but it has usually been society that says it is the woman's job. And this has nothing to do with divine femininity. This has everything to do with human society. It is the woman's job to pick up the child if she's sick from school. It is the woman's job to be at home with the child, because even daycare doesn't work if your child is sick, because they don't want your child in daycare. So your job is more expendable than the man's. Now, that's also not fair to the man, because more is put on him to be able to perform longer longer, he has to give himself more to the job because it is expected of him, and doesn't get as much time with his family. So there's sacrifices all the way around that I think that are unfair because of the way that we are judged and or suppressed, that the divine feminine, or what we look at as a divine feminine attribute, is suppressed. So there's much more that I could say about that, but yeah. So let's see, this week we own our voice. I pretty much always own my voice. We own our desire, sexuality, and sacred wrath. So for me, it's just about suppression of anybody. So for me, I seen Summer's video, and I actually thought it was wonderful. And she had said that she feels that she is embracing her feminine side because, you know, she's always felt like she embraces her masculine side. That is what society tells us. If we are go-getters, if we're independent, if we're assertive, or we're aggressive, or if we're getting things done, that's more of it's action-oriented. That's more of a masculine's role, right? The female is supposed to be the nurturer. Well, that depends on what you're nurturing, because not everything you nurture is good either. But so it's the woman's job to stay at home, most generally, to, you know, do all of those things. So if those things bring you joy, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is a beautiful thing, and it really makes it easier living in this society. But if you don't, and that was not the role that you wanted to be, and it's not because you were raging in your divine masculine energy, it was because you were just being your true self, your true nature. Nurture versus nature, right? If we look at the way that we raise our children in this society, those that have eyes see that those are human traits. If we look back at, and I know this is going off a little bit, but if we look back at like some of these goddesses, like Lilith, hello, even Eve, hello. If we look at Mary Magdalene, if we look at Kali and Athena and Venus herself, she's not just the goddess of love, she is the goddess of love and war. So I see that these roles, because I am an assertive woman, I'm creative, which would be considered divine feminine, right? But I also manifest, which would be considered, and I bring action upon my creativity, right? That would be considered both, right? But I'm a woman. So why would me being able to manifest, or me being able to manage in a position, or me be able to be aggressive in the bedroom, okay? Why would that be more of a masculine role? It's not. It's just my true nature, okay? It's not because of anything other than me expressing myself. If you believe in past lives, have you always been the sex that you are? I haven't. I know for sure that I haven't. That means my spirit is everything. We are everything. And I think that's what we were trying to, you know, talk about in this, what Cortney was trying to, and I mean, let's be honest, Cortney and I are always talking behind the scenes, so of course I knew where we were going with this, and her and I have very much of the same beliefs and concepts and stuff, and we were looking at this on a more of a spiritual level versus a human level, the roles that we put on ourselves, right? Or that society puts on us. So anyways, this has already been 20 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. I just really wanted to get it out. I am going to turn this camera around now, and I'm going to do the spread. So be right back.
So this is the spread that we're going to be doing. This was created by Cortney, and it is the Hell Hath No Furry tarot spread. So there's 5 questions. Current dark feminine archetype. How do I internalize my anger? What is the deep root of my anger? How does society lead to my anger and guilt? And how can I best embrace my sacred rage? So let's just get started. So I'm going to be using 2 decks. This is one that I have available over on Make Playing Cards. It comes in many different versions. There's a little bit of a lip or border on it, but there isn't on the final copy. But it doesn't bother me, so I'm just keeping this for now until I can get a better copy with like gilding. I think this is available with black gilding also, and there's also a version that comes with a tin. And anyways, there's like 6 different versions of it, okay? And it's called Darkness Falls Tarot. And it's very like witchy and dark, and I also feel like the whole witch movement and all that has been part of the suppression of the divine feminine as well. So I'm also going to use the solitary witch for the final question. Okay, so let me just shuffle this a minute. Okay, so first question. What is my current dark feminine archetype? What is my current dark feminine archetype? Exactly. My ability to manifest my creativity, because this is all about the things that we actually manifest in our skills and opportunities and seizing opportunity. Oh, I don't know, like this deck, right? So the second question is, how do I internalize my anger? How do I internalize my anger? Because I'm going to fast forward through it. There we go. Yes. Yes, it opens up. It leads me to explore. I see it. I'm aware, right? It leads me to also go within myself in order to seek the wisdom from that. I'm telling you, the high priestess is my Gale, okay? I am that high priestess. What is the deep root of this anger? What is the deep root of this anger? Yeah. Yes. 4 of Swords, saying it's time to take a rest. So if you're on your period, you're probably just over emotional. You should be resting. You shouldn't be talking, right? Or women, it's not their area. Go take a rest, relax. That's how I see it, right? In this context. Like, you are fragile. You're a woman. You shouldn't be doing these things, That's where that rage comes from. When I was a kid, I was the only girl on the football team. Was that me fighting the patriarchy in 3rd grade? Or was that me just wanting to have fun? I used to climb trees and fall out of trees and go fishing and all of those things that were more male. But that was just me being me. I was a tomboy until I got boobs, okay? All right, so... And then there was just no denying them, all right? All right. 4th question. How does society lead to my anger and guilt? How does society lead? Yeah. Three of Swords. Yeah, it like wounds me to my soul when people are just not aware of how they lash out and hurt other people because of their own either insecurities, because of their own pain, as if it is an excuse for hurting other people. It's not. It's never an excuse. However, being able to see it, a bird's eye view of it, having more compassion and understanding, and yes, being empathic, you see it's more nuanced if you have control of your empathy, if you understand your empathy. So that's what I would say. How does society lead to my anger and guilt? It's heartbreaking. The way that I see that people are treated and how people are afraid to speak up for themselves and they just recluse or they deny or whatever. It breaks my friggin' heart because they suppress that knowledge within themselves because they're afraid to face it. They're afraid to go into their darkness. Darkness falls deck, right? All right. Let's do the last one. With the Solitary Witch. Let me pause it just for a minute. Okay, so I wanted to shuffle it a little bit. How can I best embrace my sacred rage? How can I best embrace my sacred rage? Okay, I'm going to take the top. I always take the top because I tell myself before I start that I'm only going to take the top. So I limit myself, but my higher self knows that already. So, how can I best embrace my sacred rage? The Crone in Winter. All right, 24. Let me find that. And when all seems at its most still and quiet, you can find her, the old witch who waits for you to come to ask the question, to hear her soft voice amidst the hush of the world. When you feel you need advice, know you have this old, wise woman within you. You can move yourself into the winter of your life and go to her under the sentinel tree that guards the places where our past, present, and future selves can meet. Yeah, that's our high priestess, right? That's our higher self. This is the time to be soft and quiet and slow to listen to your older, wiser self, to remember that those who really listen to the world often do not listen with their physical body alone. Exactly. This whole being senses, or their whole beings sense the change in the energy of the natural world, of the energetic world, and all the places where they intermingle. Yes, quantum entanglement. It is a reminder, too, that just because it is cold outside of you at this time, it may be frosty or chilly, and you may wish only to be indoors, that the natural world welcomes you. And when the world outside you, the human world, is not so warm and welcoming, but still, be still. Listen, and you will soon know when to take action. Now you need simply connect and be, and know that wisdom will be your guide. Message: the wisdom of your experience, your older self, the wise witch within. What a loving grandmother would advise you. A time to be still, ensure contentment even when others seem ill at ease, drawing allies to you with your stillness. How can I best embrace my sacred rage? Go within. Listen to my experiences. Listen to the things that I have learned. Listen to my past selves who all culminate in my high priestess or in my higher self. Listen to myself. Listen to and trust my intuition is guiding me. Absolutely. So, thank you so much, Courtney. The next video I do is definitely going to be for only a few eyes, okay? It's going to be unlisted, and it's the sexual one, just because that's not for YouTube for me. So thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I'm sending you love always.